That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about our top favorite film releases of 2023.
We saw a lot of movies this year. You over 1,000 in 2023.
Yeah, as of today, I think because the year's not over, about 1,050.
And I'm approaching 400.
But we saw a lot of turkeys, a lot of caca, because that's you can't avoid that every year. But I also thought it was hard for me to put together a top 10 list. I did see a lot of really excellent film this year, and Joseph doesn't allow me to do honorable mentions, but Past Lives and Totem. And
So you're doing it right now.
Past Lives, Celine Song, Totem, but Lila Aviles, and RMN, I just skirted by to make the cut. And I also wanted to note that my top 10 list, I believe I'm going to start doing kind of what John Waters does, and it will be my top 10 that I saw this year. So some stuff might not be available technically until next year, but...
Oh, okay. Well, let's start. Number 10. Mine is The Zone of Interest.
Jonathan Glazer.
Just so eerie and disturbing, but without us actually seeing much. It's what's in the background. It's a PG-13 film that was fully horrific to me. I was just so impressed. What's your number 10?
My number 10 is Bad Living, directed by João Canijo, which was Portugal's submission for Best International Feature. And I don't believe has made the short list, but he's been around since the 80s and works in a style much like Mike Leigh. And this is about a group of 3 generations of women stuck in this hotel in this dying seaside town that hate and resent each other. So it's a bunch of bitchy, miserable women with ending in a tragedy. And I've seen it twice. I think it's captivating. And it's a diptych. It's part of another film that's focusing on the guests of the hotel in the same period called Living Bad, which I think the two together are great, but number 10 is Bad Living for me.
Number 9, Earth Mama, directed by
Savannah Leaf, her debut.
Oh, I was so impressed. The cast, because there are a couple of newbies leading the film, and then we have Erica Alexander in it. But it's about a woman who is dealing with a drug issue. Her children have been taken away from her by Child Protective Services, so she's working with a social worker. She also is currently pregnant and having to go through the process of being able to keep the baby she's pregnant with. It felt so real, but not exploitative. I was so impressed with the acting. Very well done. And then for it to be a debut, like a directorial debut, is very impressive. Yeah. What's your number 9?
Number 9, Beau is Afraid. Another A24 film. The third by Ari Aster's third feature. And I know it underperformed at the box office, but it is a big swing, and I think it is so impressive. And Joaquin Phoenix is excellent. I think Parker Posey walks away with one of the best sex scenes of the decade, and it's much like Homer mixed with Kafka. I just think it's brilliant.
My number 8, The Passenger, directed by
Carter Smith.
It's a story about 2 guys who go on a road trip after one of them does something pretty life-changing, meaning that his life is probably over. But the lead performance from Kyle Gallner, I love the way the film was shot, the feel of it. It's a lower budget film, but it doesn't feel that way. And the journey it took me on, I was very surprised. I would recommend people check it out. What's your number 8?
Number 8 for me is The Zone of Interest, which I think is, of the new releases I've seen this year, the one I've watched the most, because I've actually seen this 3 times. I think, as you said, it's a PG-13 horror film. I think it is the most horrific film you're going to see this year. It's not a joy to watch and earns comparisons to something like The White Ribbon, but captivating. Captivating like cancer is captivating, though.
My number 7, May December. This is, we got a lot of comments. This is not like a biopic about Mary Kay Letourneau, but it does mimic that situation.
Her trajectory, yeah.
And the time period. And so about an older woman having an inappropriate relationship with a teenager, but then staying with this teenager, getting married, having children, and now that the kid is now an adult. But the performances from Julianne Moore and
Charles Melton
are top notch. And I'm not a big Natalie Portman fan, and I liked her in this movie.
Natalie Portman, I think both women are really, it's great. It's like, if you can make Ingmar Bergman more perverse with persona.
And y'all know my memory is garbage, and I can remember several scenes from this film.
Oh, that recycled score by Michel Legrand. Todd Haynes is, I mean, a perennial favorite, and I've loved him since seeing Julianne Moore in Safe. But it's unexpectedly great.
What's your number 7?
My number 7 is Monica, the third film by director Andrea Polaro, starring Trace Lysette. And it is about a trans woman who has just kind of been dumped and also is reached out to by her sister-in-law, part of her estranged family, because her mother, played by Patricia Clarkson, is dying, and she travels back home. But while her brother and sister-in-law know who she really is, her mother, it's very unclear for a long time, does not, until suddenly Patricia Clarkson does realize that is her kid. And that sounds like it could be a very melodramatic scenario, but it's not. I love how it's shot in this boxy aspect ratio, like this person is trapped by the constraints of life. There are a couple moments where Lysette has a breakdown in anguish, and I think they're even more moving because of just how starved she is for some kind of emotional support. Very impressive.
My number 6, American Fiction, directed by
Ford Jefferson, debut.
So impressive for a debut. The cast is amazing.
Great cast.
Jeffrey Wright, Erica Alexander, Sterling K. Brown, Issa Rae, Leslie Uggams, Tracy Ellis Ross. Like, it's so smart, funny, melodramatic. I had commented in our review for this video that this is shady, but if Tyler Perry were a better writer and filmmaker, he might be able to make something like this.
I mean, they poke fun at Tyler Perry.
And they do poke fun at him twice in the film, so I'm sure they wouldn't mind me saying that. But yeah, so good.
Very in spirit with Robert Townsend's films, particularly Hollywood Shuffle.
What's your number 6?
Last Summer, directed by the great Catherine Breillat, starring, it's about an older, it's a remake of a Danish film, Queen of Hearts, starring Trina Deerholm, but it's much like May December, about a woman that has a sexual relationship with a young man, and everything kind of goes haywire for them.
My number 5, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
Which I also really liked.
Oh my gosh, I was so surprised. I know people always comment how I don't like animation, but I mean, I do, but this one just, it's so smart, funny. The voice acting of the 4 turtles, they're so charming.
And Ice Cube.
Ice Cube as this monster fly is epic. The young lady, like the journalist who has befriended the turtles, so cute. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely would watch this movie repeatedly. What's your number 5?
All of Us Strangers, directed by Andrew Haig. And if you liked Weekend, I don't see why you wouldn't like this film. But it's based on a Japanese novel that was previously made in the 80s as The Discarnates, which I haven't seen that, but I imagine this is a lot different, and there's a queer component. And about the differences between different generations of gay men and the trauma of having grown up in the 80s. Andrew Scott's, he in his mind has a conversation with he meets up with his parents from his childhood home, played by Jamie Bell and Claire Foy, and they're getting to interact with him as if he's an adult and the gay man he's become, and what changes have happened in the time period, and it's just very emotional and very cathartic.
My number 4, Rotting in the Sun, directed by
Sebastian Silva.
And it's like semi-autobiographical.
Well, he's playing himself, a filmmaker, but that gets killed.
It's like a murder mystery, like black comedy that I thought was so fun. I mean, it's pretty specific. Like, as a middle-aged gay man, I really found a lot of it very appealing. There's this other character who's like a social media celebrity who I think feels very timely and accurate. There's a housekeeper played by
Catalina Saavedra.
who is just sublime as this poor woman trying to cover up a murder. Yes, very, very well done. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is Master Gardener, directed by Paul Schrader, which didn't get a lot of love, but it's a very complicated and bizarre film, and works against the grain, I think, of what we expect with narratives dealing with racist characters. But I think Paul Schrader is always consistently pushing boundaries and buttons. But Joel Edgerton is the lead, who falls in love, who is an skinhead who's in witness protection, and years later falls in love with the niece of his employer, played by Sigourney Weaver, who's pretty fantastic, and also exploiting him for sex. But her niece is played by Quintessa Swindell, who is of mixed heritage, which is also a plot point. But he's kind of able to find, or at least start a path of retribution because of her. But yes, very dark. I love the score. Sigourney Weaver is excellent. I think she looks great. But yeah, it's complicated.
My number 3, All of Us Strangers. I really thought, well, I related to the Andrew Scott character, but I know some people's commentary was that it feels a little over the top or silly, but it felt, what did we just watch where it was the movie Carmen, saying that it's like a
dreamscape.
A dreamscape. And I thought, okay, this really does feel like a dreamscape. I cried so much during the film. Excellent. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is May December, which we've already talked about, but yeah, this was a true delight this year.
My number 2 is The Color Purple. I was a huge fan of the 1985 film. I saw the musical on Broadway in the late 2000s. And I think this film, which is a version of the musical, is such a nice complement to the 85 film. So many great performances, a really nice balance of emotion. There's just enough humor to be of relief, but not take us out of
to not be
the
hokey.
pain of the story. I was just so impressed. What's your number 2?
Directed by Blitz Bazawule.
Oh, yes.
My number 2 is Poor Things from director Yorgos Lanthimos of the Greek Weird Wave fame, and he won the Golden Lion in Venice for this. And I've read the book, and I also highly enjoyed the book by Alistair Gray. But the choices made turn this into this phantasmagorical feminist allegory that Mary Shelley would be proud of. I thought it was fantastic. All of the actors except for one, I think, are excellent, first rate. I love how it looked. It's very sexual and magical and perverse and glorious.
My number 1 film is Poor Things. I thought it was exquisite. It feels like if you drive a Honda and you've never sat in a Bentley, go sit in a Bentley. And just the detail and it's just so rich. I can't think of anything else I've seen that felt, the attention to detail is meticulous.
But in every possible way, from performance to set design, production design, the score, the screenplay, it's just...
The level of care taken is phenomenal. And I'm very impressed by that.
And even for the length of... Because it's a long film as well. But it doesn't feel like it to me.
What's your number 1 film?
My number 1 film is the latest from Bertrand Bonello, La Bête, aka The Beast, which is based on a Henry James novella from, I believe, 1911 called The Beast in the Jungle. But this is so much more. It's set across 3 different time periods, starring Léa Seydoux and George Mackay as 2 people that are attracted to each other that, for whatever reason, it goes unrequited until the third segment set in the future when humans have been allowed to program their emotions. and it's just saying so many things about life trajectories and romantic beliefs and expectations, and how once you have what you want, do you want it anymore? I don't know. Say Do, I think is just fantastic. I think George McKay is really good too. I don't know. It was walking out of the theatrical experience. It's only in the past decade have I felt that kind of elation of like, I just saw something that I rarely see operating at that level ever.
Those are our favorite films of 2023. Do you have anything else to say?
No.
Join us over at Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.